India have won the second test match against England by a mammoth 317 runs in Chennai to level up the series 1-1 and set up a grand finish for the final two tests. But, as always as it is with the Indian team, whenever they win a test at home, talks about the pitch offering too much spin comes into play for some odd reason. It's an unbelievably stupid excuse, considering both teams are playing on the same exact wicket. Simon Hughes, an English cricket analyst, tweeted, "India should be docked World Test Championship points for this pitch. It's a sandpit. Makes batting a lottery." So 2 things I have to say to Mr. Hughes. Number 1, if a team is playing on flat decks, why don't you or anybody else complain that those types of decks make bowling a lottery? And number 2, if the Chennai pitch is making batting a lottery for Joe Root, Ben Stokes, and Daniel Lawrence, but not for Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, and Ajinkya Rahane, then that is not saying anything about the quality of the pitch, but rather than the ability, or the lack of, that is, of the English batsmen to play quality spin. India's number 8 batsman scored a magnificent century on this track, so there is no reason for world-class players like Root and Stokes to not perform as well. Harsha Bhogle, as always, responded so beautifully with grace to Mr. Hughes, saying, "This pitch makes batting a skill. It is when the going is tough that you discover who is up for it. There are green tops and trampolines and dusty pitches, but that is why playing away is a challenge. India won Lords, England won Mumbai. You can't become great by complaining," and he is spot on here. India were up for the challenge of playing on a turning track. The batsmen played accordingly with a certain amount of counterattack and defensive masterclasses. England, however, were clueless on the same exact wicket. The talks about this pitch being poor in particular is especially idiotic, considering India managed to score 329 and 286 on this wicket. There have been games in Senate countries where the scores were much lower by both teams competing, and sometimes the quality of the pitch wasn't even mentioned. For example, when India went to New Zealand early last year, the highest score in the second test at Christchurch was India scoring 242 in their first innings. After that, New Zealand scored 235 in their first innings, and India scored 124 in their second innings, and New Zealand chased down 132, losing 3 wickets. The score of 250 wasn't even crossed, and instead of blaming the pitch for their loss and finding unreasonable excuses, Team India accepted defeat, vowed to work on what went wrong, and won the Test series in Australia 1 year later. An example of when there was some pitch controversy in a Senate country would be when India went to South Africa in 2018, where the ball generally delivers a lot of pace, bounce, and swing, and is one of the hardest places to bat in the world. The pitch in Johannesburg for the third test was not only rated poor by the ICC for its unbelievable amount of pace, bounce, and swing throughout the test, but it was also rated dangerous by the ICC, and even South African batsman Dean Elgar had agreed to this. And guess what? India had won that test match by 63 runs, scoring 187 and 247 in their 2 innings, compared to South Africa's 194 and 177. It could have been very easy to let the pitch get the better of them and use that as an excuse after, but that's not the way India do things. Standing up to the challenge and beating the odds in alien conditions against the likes of Morkel, Rabada, and Philander is what India did, and it's something a lot of teams need to learn from when visiting India. Now, let's compare and contrast a bit more. This was a wicket that was used in Chennai that was deemed unacceptable by people like Mark Waugh and Michael Vaughan. Looks like a decent wicket, doesn't it? This is a pitch that was used in a match between New Zealand and the West Indies in Hamilton a few months back. There was zero outrage over it. I mean, just look at it. You can barely even tell it's a pitch. And this is a pitch that was used in a match between India and Australia in Perth in 2018, where Virat Kohli scored a counter-attacking century after India lost wickets early. And this is a pitch that was used in a match between India and England in Lords in 2014, a match where India ended up winning. Using the pitch as an excuse for a loss is quite frankly just pathetic. Ravichandran Ashwin, the hero of the match for India with both bat and ball, has said that the challenges are way greater when you come up against seam. And what he means by this is comparing facing a ball that's coming at you at 90 miles an hour on a pitch with a lot of grass versus playing a ball which is turning a lot. He continued by saying, "It's just the same way when you play spin. You have to give it to the bowler, play time, and then look to score runs. It's another form of art. That's it. As simple as that." Playing against quality spin is an art itself, and to become the best cricket team, you have to master all the arts. It is also important to mention that India had a much better spin attack than England as well, which is a big factor when teams come to play cricket in India. If you have Jack Leach and Moeen Ali up against Ravichandran Ashwin, Akshar Patel, and Kuldeep Yadav, who do you think is going to come out on top? As England need to improve their batting against spin, they also have to improve their spin bowling itself as well. Michael Vaughan always has something to say, doesn't he? This time tweeting, "It's entertaining cricket as things are always happening, but let's be honest, this pitch is a shocker. Not making any excuses as India have been better, but this isn't a test match day 5 prepared pitch." By the way, it's hilarious when people say, "I am not making excuses," then immediately proceed to make excuses. Sort of lowers the credibility of the speaker, but Shane Warne immediately countered Vaughan's claims by saying England could have bowled India out for 220, but didn't because the Indian batsmen were simply better than the English batsmen, and the Indian spinners were simply better than the English spinners. It's that simple. It's really not a hard concept to grasp. Indian batsmen have played well in all conditions, be it seam and swing, base and bounce, turn and bounce, and anything else. Indian batsmen have always been up for the challenge, as have the bowlers. That's why India have held the ICC Test match for 4 consecutive years, while other teams who complain about the pitch conditions haven't even come close to it. We're in for an exciting conclusion to this series. We move to Ahmedabad for the day-night test next. Thank you for watching.